So I'm in command right now, just agent.kw.com, and I'm going to get logged in. And if you want the easiest way to do campaigns in command, I like to go into designs because there are already postcards set up for us. So I'm going to go in there. And I am going to create design. Okay, and since, just keep in mind, this is one that will actually be printed. So I'm just going to pull from the print setting. Social is things like Facebook, Instagram, they're just sized for that, but print will be like flyers, magazines, door hangers, anything that you're actually going to make hard copies of. I'm going to choose that. If you want to do one on a listing, like a just listed or just sold, you can check that and it will give you the option to bring in a listing from the MLS. I'm not going to do that today, so I'm just going to hit continue. And then depending on what kind of, postcard you want to send out, there are thousands of options and designs. So it helps to kind of have an idea ahead of time. So what I'm in right now would be things to market your app. So if that was something you wanted to do, you could just change to standard postcards. And kind of all of these are fair game. So there's a ton in here. You could drop down listings. You have coming soon, for sale, just listed, just sold, anything like that. Local expert, neighborhood snaps. If you want kind of my cheap go-to, that is the easiest. Lead generation, home value. So if I come in here, either of these, like find out what your home is worth, those are super easy because you really don't have to edit the template that much. I'm going to go into a template that I'm actually going to edit a good bit. So I'm going to choose under buyer. It is going to be neighborhood snaps. And I'm just going to change it to standard postcard so I know I'm picking the right one. And I'm going to choose this first one. So this would be if you consider yourself to be an expert on a certain neighborhood, you can make a postcard based on that. So I kind of have a lot to work with on this one. So I have this image over here I can change. I'm going to change this neighborhood listing in the middle because we don't have a Barton Hills in Fayetteville. I also have this image that I can change as well. And this is just the first page. So you can see that there's 2 pages. You have to have a back to a postcard. So if I change to the second page, you'll see what all I have to work with on there. So kind of a description of the neighborhood. I can add all of my image or all of my information over here. So while there is a good bit of things to change, this one is still pretty easy. So I'm just going to start with my page 1. What I want to change first is this little neighborhood snapshot. So if you notice, if you click on it, it's not going to let you change it indirectly. This is something that command makes for you. So I'm going to have that selected and I'm going to go over to KWLS. And this is where you can bring in a listing if you want. But if I change over to snapshots, you can search for a neighborhood name. So I know that Gates 4 was an easy one to come up with earlier. So I'm just going to search for Gates 4 and hit enter. And then obviously I'm going to look for the one that is Fayetteville. And if I select that, it has done this for me. So if you've ever used designs, it's the same way. You click on it. And if you want to replace it with something, you have this little replaced image. So I'm going to click that. And it is going to reflect over here. So now I have Gates 4. It gives me the average listing price, sold price, whatever is active right now, pending, average days on market, average price per square foot. Some neighborhoods don't have all of this information. I know I was looking at like downtown Fayetteville earlier and it was kind of missing some. So I would kind of play around, search different neighborhoods and see what has complete information. Will your next move be to Barton Hills? No, I'm going to click on that. This is just text. So I could either just double click in here and change it. I like to use this typewriter option because it pulls up this screen and it's easy to just keep the format. So I'm going to change that to Gates 4. And I'm going to save changes. And then it is right there. If I don't like how that's formatted,
Slow down.
okay. What part?
Just all of it.
Okay, I'm recording this so it goes on YouTube. This isn't really a go as I go kind of thing. Just because that would make, my recording like 2 hours long. So what I've done so far, I've just replaced this. I went in KWLS, looked for whatever neighborhood you want to use. It's going to be different for every postcard you want. And now I'm just changing this to kind of reflect Gates 4 a little bit more. So this text, if I wanted to make it bigger, you have the option up here. I could change the color. I can format it to the center. Whatever you think looks aesthetically pleasing, kind of go for it. So I think I'm going to leave it in the center. I'm obviously not sending this, so it's not that big of a deal, but definitely focus on this kind of stuff if you are actually sending it. Make sure things are centered, make sure things look good. I also have these 2 images to work with. So these are stock images that you have within designs. So if I think, this doesn't really look like a house that would be in Gates 4 or whatever neighborhood you're doing, I can click on it. And if I come into images and then under workspace, I'm going to skip. I can do, so this is a house exterior. So I have all of these options to choose from. So I'm going to choose house exteriors. And I could maybe scroll through and see one that looks more like Gates 4. So you have a ton to choose from. I'm just going to pick this one. And then same thing. I'm just going to hit replace image and it's going to put it there. So that looks a little funky. So I can kind of reposition it. It really just depends on what the size of the image is. This doesn't really give you a whole lot of space to work with. So I could kind of move this over, move that. It's really just kind of finagling this until it's how you want it to look. Maybe I'll do that one. And then this image down here, if I don't like the girl riding the bicycle, same thing. I can click on this. I can go back and I can do lifestyle activities. And maybe, we don't live on a lake, but I can look, kind of see what else in here. I don't really like those. I'm going to go back and let's do lifestyle at home and see what else in there. I'm going to do this one. Same thing. I'm just going to replace it and then it's going to be right there. My speaker's on. Okay, so really those 4 things, that's all I had to change on this postcard. So the front could technically be done. I could keep looking for more images if I wanted to, but that was what was already there. I think it's easiest to just kind of work with what's already in the template instead of adding in a bunch of extra stuff. But definitely utilize these kind of stock images. There's a ton in here. I could look at miscellaneous. There's some holiday ones. Oh, I want the dog as the reindeer. We're gonna do that. Yes. And I looked, so it is kind of blurry on here. I'm not positive why. I double checked this earlier and once I downloaded it, it cleared up. I'm positive, but we're going to leave the dog with the antlers. And I am going to switch to my second page. So this one, it is talking about kind of characteristics of the neighborhood. So I could click on this, same thing. I could hit my typewriter tool and I would definitely change this to Gates 4. But I could add in things that make Gates 4 unique. I could talk about how it's a gated community, it has a pool, it has security, anything like that. Just make sure you're changing neighborhood names because once again, Barton Hills does not exist here. I'm going to save changes. And then same thing with this. If I decided I wanted this formatted differently, I could change the font. You can change the font size, color, opacity. I could also center it if I wanted to, whatever looks best to you. Let me do that. And like this background, I can click on it. If I decided I wanted it to be red, I can make it red. just definitely play around with this and make it however you want. The DBA logo, I'm just going to click on that and replace it with our Market Center logo.
How did you get that in there?
And then my assets.
We tried.
So if I go into designs, I'm just going to go to create design. So it's from this page before you've actually selected a design. And if you go to assets, you can choose color palettes, go down to logos, and you can upload however many Market Center logos you want. So I have lots of different colorways to kind of go with whatever template it is. Because some of them you need a transparent one. If you have the one with the white background, it kind of looks bad. And then that's also how I got like my headshot in here. So I don't have to upload it every time. So this, I can make it a little bit bigger if I wanted. And I definitely always go with these guidelines just to make it centered. Up here, this is just your agent information. So I can click on her headshot, come over into mine, and replace. If I don't like how it's laid out, I can click reposition, and I can kind of move it around if I want. Agent name. Your website URL, your email, your phone number. I'm going to leave the email for the website just blank. Just put in whatever you want here. If you don't want your website, just take it out. Save changes. And I'm going to do that. What you don't want to do on the back is cover up this white space, because that is where the return address goes. So if you're pulling from the designs and it has this huge white space, just don't put anything in it, because then you're not gonna, you're gonna be covering it anyways. So it's gonna look a little bit less weird once we get to that step, but definitely leave that huge awkward white space. Download my app. If you need to know where your app link is, I'm gonna go back into command. And under consumer, if I go to site and app settings and then URLs, this will be my app URL. So I could copy and then just come back over into command, click on it, and then I like to use the typewriter and just paste it in there. That looks kind of weird. Is anybody actually going to type this into their phone? No. So what you can do, this is a lot easier than it sounds. I like to just Google what I did to get here. I just did free QR code generator. And this one is QR-code-generator.com. It is free. I've played with it. And I can paste in my app link, give it a minute to think, and it's going to generate a QR code. So whenever I'm going to take this and download it, it's going to ask you to do a free sign up, but if you look up here, it is being generated, so you can just ignore that. And I'm just going to wait for it to download. So now that it's ready, I can come back into command. I can just get rid of that. That's not what I wanted. I'm going to kind of move this over. And I could come into add. There's my QR code. I could add it to my postcard and just resize it and just put it up here where it fits. So that way they're not, they're not going to post in that big long URL in their phone. And I could change this to scan to download my app. Oh my gosh. And then they know what they're supposed to do with it. Most people, with COVID and restaurants and everything, they usually know what to do with a QR code, but if in case they don't, You give them instructions. And then they can just scan it with their phone and it will prompt it to download. Any issues so far? Anybody on Zoom? Because I can read you anything that I need to.
We did another class like with how to do it on the social part, not a postcard.
What do you mean?
Like you can, like I have a listing I want to advertise and create
Like a Facebook post?
yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna keep going. So I'm gonna go flip back over to my page 1. And I'm just gonna rename this Gates 4. And then this is designed, so you will see it saves automatically. It's kind of like Google Docs with the way it does that. You can do file save. Sometimes I like to just be extra safe. But to actually pull this in as to where I can use it for a postcard, I'm going to download. Click out of that. It is going to be PDF for printing. I'm going to toggle on include bleed, and then we want to use manual bleed. So its default is 0.125 inches. That's what we want. And we want to make sure we're just downloading one page at a time. So we want to make sure just page 1 is selected. So I'm going to hit download. I'm going to give it a minute. Because it's kind of thinking, so it won't even let me download anything else. It does take a minute to download. Okay, so it'll show it's downloading 15%. I'm going to go ahead and prompt it to download the back, doing the same thing, PDF for printing, include bleed, and make sure that use manual bleed is selected. But I'm going to change it to page 2 and download. Okay, so both of my PDFs have downloaded. They're both separate. What I'm now going to do is go back into command. We can leave designs completely. We're done. Our postcard is good to go. I'm going to go into campaigns because this is where postcards are ran from. So your campaigns applet has a lot more than just Facebook ads. You can do the direct mail campaigns, which is what we're doing. We also have social posts, so you can post things directly to Facebook from command. It's pretty cool. Emails, and then of course, Facebook ads. But I'm going to create campaign. And then this one is direct mail. So I'm going to choose that. And my campaign name, I'm just going to call this one Gates 4. You have to choose a goal. This doesn't really make much difference with the exception of advertised listing. If you do want to pull in anything from the MLS, you would want to choose that. Since I'm trying to get people to, want to move to Gates 4, I'm going to choose attract buyers. And I'm going to create campaign. So my overview is just the name of it and then the goal. So that is good to go. The content, so we can select template. You can do this directly from design or from campaigns. So you don't have to even do the design. I think it's just kind of the easiest way around it. But I'm going to go to upload design. And this is where I'm going to kind of run into my first issue. So if I drag and drop this front postcard, it's going to tell me that the file size must be less than 5 megabytes. So unfortunately, it is not sized for the 5 megabytes, but I found the easiest way. If you go to freepdfconvert.com, there are so many other hard ways to go about this, but this is what I found to be the easiest earlier. I can just drag. Oh, I didn't want that. Okay, I'm going to choose file and I'm just going to pull it in for my downloads. Okay, I'm just going to sign up so we can get past that. No, I'm not. I don't want to wait 8 minutes. Let me open up another window and see if I can get it to. Okay, I'm gonna get logged in. Okay, we're compressing it on here. So we just want it to be compressed, and then I'm going to download my new one. Okay, so that was my 3. So now I can go back to command, browse through my downloads, and then it is going to be right there. So I'm going to go back to my converter. Choose PDF file. I'm going to do the same thing for the back page. And I'm going to compress it. Okay. Okay, so that allows me to kind of bypass that the size is too big. And this is kind of a Google Chrome thing that it adds in all of this. Once we get to the end, it won't be like that, but I can switch from the front to the back and just make sure it looks okay. And I'm going to save. I'm going to go into Market Center and just make sure our Market Center address is in here. I'm going to move the suite over here. Fayetteville NC. Verify and confirm it. Targeting. So whatever address you put in here is going to stem the targeting of other houses. So it really doesn't make that much of a difference because you can really play with this. I'm just gonna put in the office address and I'll show you why it really doesn't matter. Save. And then you get to choose your budget. So the default is 200. You have to pay 64 each, which would put you at $128. So whatever your budget is, you can kind of toggle with that here. So if I say that my budget is 150, I can mess with this until it gets me below 150. It will give you the option to send a copy to the market center. So you can see like a hard copy of what it looks like, but it's not including that in this price. So if you are really set on your budget being 150, but you want one to come to you, just knock it down one extra. So that way, once it factors in the extra 64 cents, it'll still be under budget. I'm going to save. And we are going to go on to configure targeting. So I think this is the coolest part of the direct mail campaigns. You can really choose who is going to get these based on, there's a lot of criteria. So right now it's giving me, I'm doing 233, just kind of a random number, but it is going to give me the 233 closest to this address that I put in. So right now it's the office. If I decide that, and I can always change this up here. So this is targeting to gates 4. So if I decide I only want to target this to houses with more than 4 bedrooms, you'll see it spreads out a whole lot. It used to just be really configured in right here, but now we're gaining we're going out. If I want to say more than 2452 square footage, it's going to continue to go out. I'm going to leave year built alone, but year last sold, I'm going to say, let me move it this way. So I'm going to say last sold in 2010. It's going to keep going out. Last sold for. I'm probably going to run out of the issue where it's ran out of houses to target. So I'll see, I might have moved the price up a little bit too much. Yeah, so only 163 homes in the area match my search. So I would kind of want to knock this down, or if I'm dead set on that price, I could just leave it. But that I did a little bit, 276.7 thousand. That still gives me my 233 homes to target. I can see exactly where it's targeting. I can click on and see the address. I can see that it was last sold in 1994 for $560,000. If I decide I don't want one out there, I can just hit remove and it'll give me a new dot over here. So you do kind of have some wiggle room. It's pretty cool. I can restore. But all of these houses would be who gets my postcards. So that's pretty well spread out. It just really depends on where, what kind of postcard you're doing. So if you're doing like a just sold or, just sold in 2 days, I sold your neighbor's house, your dots are going to be kind of all in one area because you're probably just going to want to send it to that neighborhood or, some of the surrounding neighborhoods. But if it's a what your house is worth, you can do, as far out like this. It's really just up to you.
And also respecting each other's time.
My goodness. And then this is the send copy to company address. So if I toggle this on, it is going to add that extra, what was it, 64 cents into my factoring in my budget. So just kind of keep that in mind. And it'll show you the address. So once I'm happy with these houses, this is who all is going to be getting a postcard for me. I'm going to hit next. And then it's going to generate my preview. And I'll scroll back up to that, but you can see my order summary. I'm getting 234 postcards for 64 cents each. The postage is included. You're basically just paying, for the stamp. Your total comes to $149.76. It'll tell you all of the processing rules down here. So if I submit it before 3 p.m. on a business day, they'll go to production that same day. They'll be inserted into the United States Postal Service mail stream within 2 business days, and they're estimated to arrive within 4 to 6 business days. And you can see it got rid of that weird, whatever Google Chrome does, I'm not sure. But this is the front of my postcard, and this is what the back looks like. So it's a little bit less awkward because we now have where you know, where it's going to, the return address, current resident, and the postage. All that's left from here, you put in your email, your card number, all of that information, make a payment. And then if I was really doing this, they would go into production this same day. And then they would be delivered, you know, next week sometime, hopefully. So any questions?